Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Magic Bricks webinar series, our endeavor to trigger a buy and bring back consumer confidence in the real estate market. We have initiated a webinar series by industry experts to give you all crisp insight of real estate industry. The topic of today's session is how well-maintained homes can get you better values. Our guest speaker today is Mr. Baljeet Khurana. He is an associate professor at University of Architecture and Planning at Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University. Mr. Khurana is a 1986 graduate in architecture from Chandigarh College of Architecture with over 28 years of diversified experience as an architect, project manager, project controller, practice manager, studio coordinator, academic and architectural journalist. He has worked in senior position on wide range of projects with large and renowned architecture practices such as Anant Raje, Seen Doshi and Bhalla, Raj Rule Association, Prem Chaudhary Associates, RSP Architects, Engineers and Planners Private Limited, etc. He has also worked with Jindal Steel and Power Limited. Besides, he has also maintained his own design and build practice. He has also taught at leading schools of architecture in NCR and served as a juror at leading national universities. His articles on architecture, heritage conservation, interior design, and architectural education have been published in leading national dailies, magazines, and journals. He is a registered architect and Council of Architecture, Associate of Indian Institute of Architects, Life Member of Indian Society of Authors, and Indian Society of History. He is a recipient of the Charles Wallace India Trust Traveling Fellowship in Conservation. Along with him, I also welcome E. Jayashree Karu, Head Content and Research, Magic Bricks. She has been a business journalist for over 2 decades with Times of India, the Economic Times, and the Financial Express. She forayed into research in 2002. She is a regular guest columnist with a number of established media, including the Times Group and others. We will start the session with a presentation by our experts. Over to you, Jayashree.
Thanks, Neha. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Magic Bricks series on where we bring you the experts who can give you insights into all aspects of home buying, home maintenance, and how you can get the best value out of your real estate investments. Today, we've picked up a subject that is strictly speaking not in the purview of real estate pricing, but more like why should you maintain your house? How well should you maintain it? And how does the industry acknowledge the value of design, architecture, and maintenance in the long term? Interiors and layout, how does it help? It is a differentiator when a developer sells a property. It impacts the quality of life for those residing there. It allows the occupier to maximize the usable space in a house and leave space for different kinds of activities, or allows consumers to repurpose the same space for different activities. This could be within the house, this could be within the complex, it could be in the larger context of the locality. Baljeet, would you like to comment on this?
Yeah, what I would like to say is that the very interesting idea that we have been toying with for the last 20 years in India is that why don't we give the house owner, especially in a multi-story apartment block, just a framework of columns and beams and leave the interior details of walls and finishes, etc. to him, so that he can, according to his budget, plan it out and to his taste do that. That would save a lot of hassle on the part of the builder, because the builder provides something which the house owner doesn't like, so he ends up ripping up the floor, changing the tiles and doing the plaster again. So this is one idea which I think we can add to this concept of interiors and layout, whereby the house owner may hire a separate architect, or he on his own could do the interiors of the house. Today there is a generation of DIY, do it yourself, which is flourishing abroad at a fantastic pace. So that kind of a development or idea, if it comes to India, I think it will make far more sense and give far more variety to the interiors of the houses that people buy from the apartment owners.
In fact, even premium developers such as the DLF, when it created its own premium housing, for instance, Aralias and Magnolia and properties like that, they actually gave the framework and allowed the consumers to even do the brickwork themselves, unless they specifically wanted it, where the developer did it. The idea clearly is that if you have very strong ideas about what you want your house to look like, why not allow you to do that without actually getting a fully finished product which you have to rip up and then reconstruct again.
Exactly, I fully agree with you, Jayashree. One more very interesting concept is that you see all the apartment blocks by the best developers, by the most renowned developers, by the best architects. Every house looks the same. There is no sense of identity. There is a sense of anonymity. So that is something which every house owner would like to do away with, because every individual wants to express his own personality, his own taste through his house. So instead of giving them ready-made doors and painting them the color that the architects wants, if you leave it to the owners, I think there will be far more variety that we will see in our multi-story development, and give far more satisfaction to the owners and save a lot of money also.
Globally, when you have these kind of principles where you would like to make individualize your unit, the outside, the exterior facade, there are very strong norms. As a result, if you take a layout like say Nirvana in Gurgaon, the entire layout of Nirvana was important because of the way it was structured, and there was a urban space that was created. However, because there was no binding on the buyers to hold that space, suddenly you find that in the middle of the entire urban layout, there is one user who has broken down the existing development and created a red brick facade, which stands out. While it is unique in itself and may even be aesthetic, it interferes with the urban design layout, and that in the long term, if every user starts doing that, the idea of a uniform urban flow gets interrupted, and this is something I think that comes with maturity and which needs to have some statutory compliance.
I fully agree with you. What happens in these cases is that statutory compliances are becoming a little difficult. While on the one hand we want to give the individual house owner the freedom to design the exteriors of his house the way he wants, the interiors of his house, whichever the finishes or the fixture that he wants on his own, the furnishing, etc. I definitely agree that there's bound to be some kind of a conflict between the overall unity of the design which the architect is proposing and what the individual house owner is trying to do. But at the same time, if the architect is sensitive enough and he is able to provide certain urban development guidelines, certain frameworks, specifying that, okay, you can have a window of this size, you can have a window of this size also, but designed in such a manner so that the house owner is bound by those urban development guidelines, and even if they make some intervention, they don't seem out of place and they don't seem like eyesore.
Absolutely. And one more point before we move on to the next slide. In the Indian context, we do not have standardization of form. Whether it's the size of the windows, the doors, no ancillary industry has come up in the Indian context because we don't have standardization. Every developer, every development has non-uniform sizes. Globally, they're moving towards standardization, and in India, a lot of work is working around standardization, so that if your door is spoiled, for instance, you can just open out the hinges, remove the door and replace that door because it is a standard size. Go out, purchase whatever you like and fix it yourself. In the Indian context, today it's not possible. You have to get in the carpenter, you have to get that work done by somebody. But going forward, if the standardization principles come into place, you should be able to buy it off the shelf. Let's go on to the next point. What is design-led living? Design is not something that impacts only the color of your walls or the type of furnishings and furniture that you use. Design is anything that makes your life pleasant, comfortable and easy. Let me take some few examples of what's happening in the Indian market. The owner of a design studio in Italy has created a township in Bengaluru where every element down to the last paving stone is planned, designed and meticulously created. What that developer has focused on is the view that every user in that township gets, how high your foot moves when you climb from a pavement to the road below. Are you able to seamlessly work between your personal space in your house to the space just outside within the towers, and then into the rest of the city. All that is meticulously planned, so that design becomes the overarching element when that whole layout was designed. There are developers who pay international architects huge amounts to design external spaces, because the principle is that they have created very, very strong architectural landmarks there, and can they bring the same to India? Not that Indian architects have not done that. I think many Indian developers have very strong Indian architects who have done the same here. One basic principle, like a rule of the thumb, and this is something that I heard when I was at the Smart Cities conference in Singapore some time ago: the smaller the internal space, the larger should be the external space for stress-free living. In fact, there are mayors, global mayors, who actually try to free up more and more spaces for free external space, so that you could walk, cycle, interact, walk your dog, take your children to the park, activities that otherwise your internal space does not allow, because internal spaces around the world are shrinking as property values go up.
Yeah, I want to just say one thing, Jayashree, that while designing, even if you hire the best international architect and you have the best of the designers on board, one factor that we don't understand, that does the architect really have complete knowledge of the user behavior? And there is a tremendous diversity in the user behavior. So where does that research happen? And if it happens, how is it incorporated in the design? That is, I think, where the thing really boils down to, that the user wants something. The user would like to use a space in a particular manner for which the architect is not providing for. That is why the interventions begin to happen, which are an eyesore and which are not desirable. So that's one particular aspect. So abroad, I'm sure that I've heard of several architects who work in a participatory manner, where they involve the end user. For example, if it's a housing block and it's got 300 end users, each one of them is identified and known, and they interact with the architect, they interact with the designers, they interact with the structural engineers and all the other board members of the architecture team, to understand and to convey to this team actually what is it that they're looking for, and what is it that suits them, and what are their preferences. Based on this feedback, the architect and his team design for them. Such designs are bound to flourish, such designs are bound to be accepted, and such designs are bound to be, I would say, intervention-free by the users. Secondly, very important point you made, that the external space is so important, especially today, where we are going high-rise and we are locking ourselves in apartments and being on the internet all the while, and losing social contact, and that's having its repercussions in the society. So open spaces become more and more important as we go high, and they are the spaces which provide social interaction, and the spaces which provide stress-free living, and they are the spaces which will actually be very, very important for building societies.
In fact, sometime 2 years ago, I think there was a World Happiness survey done, and one of the feedback out of that was that Singapore, though best planned, did not necessarily have the happiest citizens, because they felt that there was too much isolationism in that society. And one of the things that has happened is that the government has taken it as a personal agenda to free up spaces, that is external spaces, and create communities of people within neighborhoods, so that there are activities sponsored or led by the government, so that there is social interaction. Exactly what Paljit said, that if once we start locking ourselves into high-rises and into the internet world, the social interaction goes down, and it leads to a new generation of problems. Let's go to the next. So what do Indian consumers want? We went back to the Magic Bricks forum, and we said, we tried to pick up what consumers are actually asking about design. And the range of questions that we picked up are such that it has consumers' association with design is in various ways. There's somebody who has asked, where can I get the best design for construction of a 3 BHK house on a 250 square yard plot based on Vastu? Now, he is building for himself, but he wants to know, where can I get the best design? There's somebody who's looking for a resale flat in a layout called Harmony. Can you please tell me about the construction design and more? he's not only asking about the construction quality, but he's asking about the design, and he says why. Because he's looking for a retirement home for his parents. There's somebody who says, please suggest any site where I can get some ideas to furnish a home based on latest designs and features such as modular kitchens, etc. For someone else, it was a very structural issue. Is the RCC design earthquake resistant, especially with the spate of earthquakes and the prediction that a large Himalayan quake is in the offing at some time, no one can predict when. Earthquake seismic resistant designs are top of the mind recall. Then there's somebody who's looking for a certain house, a certain project. How is the built-up area and the project architecture? Design, architecture, these are things that have come into common consumer parlance. And how can we evaluate a property price, especially when it is a bungalow with a garden, which means the layout, the kind of space that offers. Baljeet, your comment.
Yeah, I think let me just go one by one. Where can I get the best designs for construction of 3 BHK house? The best designs can be even made by. I really believe that the client knows what he wants best. So the best design can actually be made by the client himself, who knows what his requirements are, and then can be vetted by an architect, and probably the architect can then prepare drawings. This is what I believe in. I always believe in a participatory process, and the clients know much better about their own requirements than the architects themselves. But nevertheless, best design can be designed by any sensitive architect, and of course he has taken into consideration the client's requirements and observe very closely the client's lifestyle and vision and aspirations. And regarding the resale flat, I think one can only know exactly after one has seen the entire brochure for this particular property. And but if you're going for retirement home for your parents, then of course you have to choose a locality which is very quiet and has a lot of open space, and it is barrier free. That's very important as one grows old. These places have to be barrier free and with all good connectivity to the physical and the social infrastructure. And of course, with a lot of
interrupt that? For those who did not understand what barrier free means, it means that as you grow old, your foot does not quite rise to take a step or things like that. So those barriers should not be there. Also, you need some guidance, which means that there should be support that you can hold when you're walking, or it should be that if you can't see very well at your age, there should be guideline tactile blocks so that you can use those to take you to wherever you need to do. These are specific requirements for the senior living, and these are the elements that Baljeet is referring to. Yeah,
okay, now about the modular kitchen. Modular kitchens is no longer luxury these days. I mean, you can most builder flats usually provide you with a modular kitchen, but otherwise one can get it installed. There are several companies which are making modular kitchens, Purbo, and then there is Hacker, and then there is Godrej. There's so many of them, and they will design it on a base-to-suit basis. They will come and measure the kitchen and all the other spaces around and design it and install it. That's not a big issue. But there are several other things which are happening in the market today, which is to do with modular coordination and to do with prefabrication. That is something which house owners need to look at, that instead of using brick walls and plastering them, if they can use materials which are dry in construction, they can be erected very easily and without much of a mess, and they will last a long time. And most such materials come with a lot of insulation built in. So they save on time and they're very lightweight also. These are the things that one has to look for. They may be particle board based, or they may be expanded polystyrene based, or there are so many other materials which are available. So is the case also with the floorings. You have timber flooring these days, laminated floorings. They simply click on floorings, which you can lay very fast and they have a very long life. So these are the aspects that one should look for while doing the interiors of any house. And all of these are modular based basically. So there's a tremendous variety these days which one can pick up from, and there are very good products available. Then regarding RCC design, whether it is earthquake resistant, RCC definitely is a far more tensile material as compared to brick or stone. So it has a lot of flexibility. It can bend a lot and it can extend a lot. But not all RCC structures, not all RCC structures are earthquake resistant. You have to make them earthquake resistant depending on the seismic zone that they lie in, and the intensity of the earthquake and the magnitude of earthquake that is expected in them. So between zone 1 and 5. So depending on which zone these structures are, the RCC structures would have to be designed, they would have to be strengthened by additional steel or providing additional bracing elements or additional tie elements, which will tie the whole structure together. Regarding details of Tata Housing Santorini,
no, actually, what he's saying is, what is the built-up area and the project architecture?
What is the built-up area and how is the built-up area and the project?
It doesn't really matter which project. Actually, the reason why we picked up this query was it's more like for a consumer, it's important to know what is the project architecture. So maybe if you can talk about the elements of architecture that you should look for when you finalize a project.
First of all, I must like to clarify here that the builders, when they sell you flats, at least in India that I know of, they will sell you on the super built-up area basis. Now, super built-up area basis means it is not just the carpet area of the house or not just the floor area of the house. They will also add to that the balcony areas, the common areas, the staircase areas, the lift lobby areas, and all that. So this additional area is about 25–30% of the total area. So what you get in reality, the total built-up area which you are talking about is only about 65%, and 34% is all the extra areas which are added to, and you are booked on the per square foot basis for this. This is one aspect that you need to understand. And the second thing is the project architecture. What you should look for in there are several architects who are designing buildings, multi-story houses today, which look like buildings in Spain or in Italy or Greece. Now, that is something which the individual house owner has to decide what kind of an image does he want to convey to the society or to himself about his own house. So it's a matter of personal preference. But otherwise, most constructions that are happening today are without these so-called frills and fancies and simple RCC constructions, easy to maintain, and they provide more efficient areas. What one house owner should look for basically is that the unit plan, how much usable area is provided to him. The builders will never explain this. They will always talk about super built-up area, but the plans will reveal how much area is in the common area bracket and how much area is actually in the total usable area. Because it's a total usable area which has a roof overhead and which you use on a daily basis, which becomes the benchmark for deciding whether it's a good property to buy or not. Second important aspect is with regard to extensions. We have been noticing that in Vasant Kunj and DDA colonies, the houses which have no encumbrances around them or not much obstruction around them, house owners extend them illegally, and they add more value to the house and they also get more area to the house. So this is something again which needs to be seen. This is not actually a, I would say, legal practice, but then in some housing colonies, DDA houses, this is going on. But this also mars the total appearance of the apartment block, and of course it causes difficulties for the other residents.
And this is one of, actually it's a larger problem here.
Yeah.
If you look at cities like Singapore or many Western cities, there is a 20 to 30 year old, after every 20–30 years, there is a redevelopment cycle that happens. In India, we have, because building lasts for about 80 years, we have taken 80 years as a benchmark. However, quality of life changes every 20 to 25 years. So once a block has been built, after about 25 years, the needs of the people living there change. Children grow up, or, young people become older and so on. And everyone tries to make life more convenient to themselves. And this is the larger problem of why we don't have redevelopment in the cities. And that is why the individual units start getting remodeled, even illegally. Let's go on to the last point. How can we evaluate a property price, especially when it is a bungalow with a garden? This is clearly a luxury in many cities, and with the kind of land values, anything with a garden will mean it is a premium unit. Let's go on to the next. So what do developers sell? If this is what consumers' concerns are, what do developers sell? We just picked up randomly some of the things that are advertised by developers when they sell properties. They sell swimming coaching, dramatics workshop, art and craft workshop, Vedic maths coaching. This Dale Carnegie personal development, none of this is related to the development, but it is all related to a lifestyle. No longer is a real estate bought purely on the basis of square footage. It is more like what is the lifestyle that you're going to offer. If you look at the convenience, they talk about resident granny, creche and daycare, Gurukul. These incidentally are the child-centric homes in Pune that a leading developer has launched. BMX and skateboard park, basketball, tennis court, clubhouse, swimming pool, gaming room, and so on. We picked up another one from Gurgaon. They advertised that there were architects from Hong Kong. It was located on the Golf Course Road, designed to offer unobstructed view of the Aravallis. The project developed on the theme of art and culture, sculptures, murals, carving spread across the landscape. Clearly, developers have started looking at these add-ons as the differentiators when they sell a unit.
I think yes, you're absolutely correct that developers are doing this to basically create icons for themselves and to create and to recreate the architecture or the other spaces of other countries of Europe and America here to give the people a feel that they have paid, I mean, the investment that they have made is really worth. That is the essential idea. I'm not really sure how many of these users actually appreciate such elements. Or probably if we had, if some developers use some Indian elements, traditional Indian elements, probably the liking and the association with them would be far better with the users.
Sure. And in fact, there are many premium houses now where creating that central courtyard or variations of that courtyard, the courtyard in India, in traditional Indian architecture was always open. Now you have them as with sky roofs and so on, so that you are drawing on elements of traditional Indian architecture and incorporating them into modern living. So whom does it affect the most? These architectural elements and these design-led features, whom does it affect the most? We believe with small children, older citizens, young adults with limited space, in effect everybody. Every age group has its own special requirement, and that is why it is important to look for design elements.
It's that's where the real crux of design lies, as to the satisfaction and the interaction of the end users with the spaces that are created, especially the outdoor spaces which are of common value, which are of common usage. How do different individuals relate to them, and how do individuals use them? Children are the ones actually who use the spaces the most imaginatively, whatever space is provided. So one has to actually look for children, what kind of spaces they look for, what kind of enjoyment can you provide for children, what kind of exploration can you provide for children in the open spaces. Just making a talk cloud is not good enough, but can you make spaces, outdoor spaces, more interactive and more experimental, with which and more imaginative, with which the student, with the young children can interact and learn from. That is one very important aspect I see absolutely missing in most of the group housing and high-rise societies. And the older citizens have their own requirement. They want more peace of mind. They want to see bright colors, and they want to have smaller spaces which are more intimate as compared to large-scale spaces. And they want to have different sense of security and interaction. They would like to have. Since they're old, they would not like to climb down, but they would like to have interaction maybe at the upper levels where they live. So what kind of spaces do we create for them at the upper level is one very big question mark in India. We're only creating spaces outdoors on the ground. Very few projects will create spaces on the terrace. What of the poor people who are living midway between the terrace and the floor at the end and the ground?
In fact, there are a couple of developers in Bangalore, and we profile these projects, who have created open spaces, gardens at different levels. Suppose you had a jogging track on the 13th floor, which connected the multiple towers. Then what happens is that even if you step out of your house onto the lawn, you can actually interact with others on the same level. Similarly, there was another very premium development which had offered a community lounge, so to speak, so that if there are 4 units on one floor, could those 4 actually have a small lounge where they could have a drink together or maybe have a game of chess together. Interesting concept, same thing that Baljit said. How can we encourage interaction, social interaction at different levels, since buildings are going high-rise?
Yeah, absolutely. So these are issues that we have to take up. Then, of course, the young adults with limited space. Their requirements are absolutely different, and they all like spaces which are more vibrant, and spaces which are more active, and spaces which are more evocative. So, and then what do we think about different forms that we use for these housings? Mostly you see either you use square rooms or you use rectangular rooms, which are the most efficient. Of course, the builder's prime purpose is to provide more efficiency. The more the efficiency, the more the value, and the more the level of satisfaction. But is it at the same time possible to also use other forms or other shapes which can provide another dimension to architecture of these spaces without compromising on efficiency and compromising on optimum usage? That is the one big challenge which some of the builders I've been seeing are trying to look at, although I think with limited success. But these are areas that are of concern to the house owner and to the, because every owner of the house wants to change the interior of the house, change the interior layout of the house on his own for a greater amount of flexibility and happiness. Happiness. He wants to do that. Now, how many of these houses? Because the windows are fixed. So if the window is fixed in one wall and there is a bed next to it, can the bed be shifted to another wall with the same degree of satisfaction and with the same degree of joy and enjoyment? That kind of aspect in India we are still not examining, but that is of tremendous importance because every house owner wants to keep on constantly changing the interior layouts. Why should we not given this opportunity? Now, there are very few developers or architects who are thinking on these lines. But this is because this is user-centric. It's coming from the user. So because we don't consult the user, we don't look at his lifestyle properly, we don't observe how a particular family lives and what kind of spaces it requires over time, change of spaces, changing the moods of spaces. That is the one very prime area of architectural design which very few architects are looking into carefully. But that has tremendous scope for exploration and for innovation.
Absolutely. So let's very quickly sum up. What are the 5 reasons why you should focus on design? It makes your living easier. It gives you better value when you sell your properties. It becomes a differentiator, which is what many people want in their homes. Rather than looking like everyone else in the unit, you want your unit to look different. You get better rental returns if you have clearly defined and easy to live in houses, and it gives you a stress-free environment. Thank you, everybody, and Neha, we can go on to the questions now.
Yeah. Jayshree, thank you so much, Mr. Khurana and Jayshree, for the insightful presentation. I will quickly go to the questions now. Jayshree, should I start reading the questions?
Yeah, why don't you ask us the first question and then we'll go on to the next.
Right. So here is Gaganpreet Singh from Delhi asking that what will be the cost of purchasing an old constructed third floor in West Delhi as compared to the the new ones which are available in Delhi NCR, which is a wise option.
Baljeet, would you like to take that?
Yeah, I think one very important thing that I would like to point out here is the kind of community life which you have in West Delhi. You may not be able to find the same kind of community life in Noida, for example. I'm not saying that the community life cannot be built or one can adjust to the new life, but I've seen a lot of people who have moved, who tried to move out from areas like Rajouri Garden, Patel Nagar, Kirti Nagar to Noida, Gurgaon, and they've come back. Some of them have even gone to Basant Kunj, which is a low-rise density development, and they haven't liked spaces there. So this is one big concern that I think that needs to be taken care of. And the second important thing is the values. The values, of course, in West Delhi will be far more. And I've seen several of my friends and colleagues who have sold off houses in Patel Nagar, Rajouri Garden, and bought 2 houses in Noida. So of course, the sale value will be slightly higher. Jayshree will tell you more about that. But it's a matter of design. I mean, it's a matter of choice. What kind of area you want to live in, what kind of connectivity you want, and what kind of lifestyle you have, and what kind of open spaces you want.
Right. And actually, there are 2 things here. Gaganpreet, you're talking about the cost of purchasing an old constructed third floor in West Delhi. Now, West Delhi is a very large area. Gaganpreet, I would suggest that you go to Magic Bricks, go to the Delhi page and key in your requirements. You get a whole host of options. And it will be, there are many localities across West Delhi where you get options. Put in your budget and see what are the options you get. Try and shortlist basis what you are looking for. Like Baljeet said, each locality has a very distinct flavor. It could be the community life, it could be the proximity to your workplace, it could be the access to transport links, it could be access to schools and other social infrastructure. Every person's requirement is different, and the reason why you pick up a house is very different. But if you're sure of what you're looking for, then go and check out what the various options are. Shortlist, and if you still need help, do come back to us on our forum and we'll be glad to help you further. Let's go to the next question. We've got Sahil from Pune who says, how can we add value to our existing house? Baljeet?
Yeah, there are many ways that you can add value to existing house. One is by using good materials of construction which have a long life. Then choosing the right colors of furnishings and furniture and fabric and all the other elements that go into it. And also by maybe introducing features or elements which will enhance the quality of life. These are the things that I can think of. Of course, it's not important that you use very expensive materials to be able to add value. You can use simple materials, but use them in a very elegant manner. So that is the aspect that needs to be taken care of while looking at enhancing the value of a house. Besides, of course, the more open space you have around the house and within the house, the more terraces you have, the greater value it has.
Sahil, I'd like to add a couple of points here. You know, since about 1998, when we had our first housing and habitat policy, and real estate development came up in a big way, till about at least 2011-12, when there was the volume of new properties in the markets was very high. Over the last 2 years, the real estate markets have been more or less flat, and the number of releases, new launches, has gone down. But because the values have gone up so significantly and it outpriced itself in the market, a lot of consumers could not buy what they wanted to within the budget that they had. Now we find that secondary markets, where you look for older properties, has suddenly come into focus, and there is a lot of transaction happening in the secondary markets as well. Now, when you look at a property that is new, you know that all the you just have to check the track record of the builder and figure out what kind of quality of services he offers. But when you're looking at a secondary market and you're buying a property that is, say, 10, 15, even 20 years old, there are a few rules of the thumb that you should follow. First of all, it is not only what the property looks like, it is how the property behaves. In terms of your plumbing lines, your electrical lines, especially when you're buying an older property, get an expert to assess these for you, and before you move in, make sure that these irritants are removed. You may want to modernize. This is more like engineering services which you can upgrade, so that for the next 5-6 years you can live maintenance free. The second thing is that when you look at layouts, and a lot of people like to tear down everything and rebuild. Sometimes it is good to go with what is there and just knock down what you think is old-fashioned or not according to your requirements. The less you break up the whole area, sometimes that is good for you. And even if you're breaking up and remodeling, like Baljeet suggested, there are plenty of lightweight, prefabricated options that are in the market. Do consider them, because that will lower the amount of time it takes to reconstruct the house, and it gives you flexibility that in another 3 years, 4 years, if you want to change the format, you can comfortably do it without again tearing down, incurring very large costs.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct, and this is the trend that is bound to now escalate as you go forward, as more and more working couples have very little time to spend on their houses and remodeling their houses. Prefabricated materials, using them, whether the wall elements or floor elements or there are other elements, is the only option, and that is going to be the cheaper option in the future, with the labor force becoming very scanty, and good labor is not easily available, and people don't have time to spend on remodeling their houses. This is going to be the next option, and it's already beginning to happen. I can tell you there are companies who are making houses out of thermocol. Can you imagine thermocol? The packaging material which is being used since early mankind, that kind of material is being used to make floors and walls, and after plastering it becomes as strong as concrete. Now these are the elements, these are techniques and other techniques also which are coming to the field now, and technologies which one has to look for and use them and adopt them, rather than going for traditional mud and brick and stone constructions. One has to look at these aspects, which will make life much simpler. The construction would be simpler, the building would be much more lightweight, and it would have the flexibility. You would have the flexibility to remodel it in the future too.
Right. We've got a very interesting question. We were talking about design as far as the interiors goes, the developer goes, the architect, and so on. Here is a consumer, Nitin Bhasin from Delhi, who says, in Delhi, builders are constructing ground plus 3 floors as this is permitted as per Master Plan Delhi 2021. However, MPD 2021 itself is sub judice, and as per Supreme Court order of 2008, the third floor may be approved by MCD NDMC, subject to an undertaking by the builder that the floor may be demolished in the event of the Supreme Court ruling is an adverse one. Given the situation, is it advisable to purchase a third floor? Here he's talking about master planning, right? He's talking about the city master plans and how it's taking a long time. It goes into the courts, and while the courts are taking a decision, should you actually look for it, or is there a danger when you're purchasing a third floor, say in Delhi?
Frankly, I would not advise that if a matter is sub judice, I would not advise that one sort of add another floor at the cost of at the risk of having facing demolition later on. But as I can tell you, the master plan is a constantly dynamic document, and every time it is made, every time new master plan is made, it has some revisions into it with regard to what is known as the floor area ratio. So in Delhi, there are various districts and several areas which have got different floor area ratios. Floor area ratio means how many floors or how much built-up area can you make on any given plot of land. So this is a constantly changing concept and constantly changing entity. And as more and more urbanizations happen, the floor area will keep on getting revised. So in all probability, the case which is in the Supreme Court, probably the court may allow for an additional floor, but one should not still take the risk. Second important thing is that now I'm aware that in areas like Basant Kunj, where there were no lifts and the construction ground plus 3, now the court is allowed to add lifts. So that will again then definitely change the rental values and the sale values of these, and of course add to the ease and satisfaction of the users.
Nitin, one issue that you should consider is the issue that went to court is not whether you needed more housing stock, which is why it was proposed to allow the third floor as a full floor. The issue that was raised was, is the existing infrastructure in terms of drainage, sewerage, water supply and so on, sufficient to cater to all of them? So clearly what needs to be done is to augment the supply, and it's not that the third floor should be struck down. I don't think that was the intent. And even if you look at what is happening, the kind of rulings that are coming, it's not anti-consumer. It's more like can the whole process of design and city management become better. We would also like to stress that right now city management has got center stage thanks to the smart city plans, the Amrut cities and so on. Urban India has had a crumbling infrastructure. We haven't looked after it for the last 40-50 years, and in the last 5 or 10 years there has been allocation of funds to make sure that urban India gets redefined. This means augmenting the services and not necessarily tearing down what is already built up. But however, like Valjit said, you must consider the implications of any matter that is sub judice. Let's go to the next question. We've got Gargi from Hyderabad who says, what are the steps that we should take to maintain our house? This is from the macro to the micro.
Well, the first important thing is they have to use materials which are easily maintainable and which require very low maintenance. For floors, for example, there's a tremendous amount of tremendous variety of tiles that is available, which can be easily maintained with vitrified tiles. Or you can use hard stones which don't suck too much dirt or moisture, like Kota stone or marble or granite. Then for the walls, of course, you can use materials, good plaster, and if you have good plaster on the walls, you don't require any POP at all. But if you don't have, then you have to go for POP, and then you can use paints which are washable, variety paints, by which you can maintain these easily. Then, of course, for the piping and all that, one has to use either, because the GI pipes will rust over time, for about 25 years, the GI pipes in your water supply pipes or the plumbing pipes or sewage pipes will rust in about 25 years. So the more reliable option that has been experimented today is the PVC pipes, which can be used. Or if one can afford it, stainless steel pipes can be used for water supply and such things. These are basically. Then of course you come to the fixtures. Now the fixtures in the toilets and the kitchens, if they are installed properly, if the good workmanship is done, then one doesn't need to worry about them. But very often what happens is that at the design stage and at the construction stage, especially in multi-storied housings, where there's a mass of houses which have been built and the builder's intention is primarily to make more money. There, of course, the fixtures are compromised with the fixing details are not done properly, etc., etc. So one basically has to work out right from the smallest detail to the biggest detail in detail. Now, if one is constructing his or her own house, it becomes far simpler to manage that. But what do you do at the level when you are going for a multi-story housing which is already built and delivered to you? So it's a big challenge, and there have been instances that house owners have bought flats and they're not satisfied with the construction. The wall plastering is poor, the floor is undulating, the jointing is not done properly, water seeps in, waterproofing is not done properly, and they've ended up paying huge amount of money to correct these. So the best option, of course, is even for the builder to ensure good quality of construction right from beginning, and good quality of materials, good quality of workmanship, and to use materials which have a long life.
Now we've got Satyajit from Delhi, and this is something, Satyajit, I think before you've asked this question, I'm sure you have your doubts. Can I construct a 5th floor in Chittarajin Park, New Delhi? Is it allowed and safe? Now,
as far as I know, I don't think it is allowed, but one will have to check with the proposed master plan 2021. The issues here are two. One is that above ground plus 3 stories, no lift is required as per norms or Delhi bylaws. But beyond ground plus 3 stories, a lift will become mandatory. That is one aspect. Second is that if you want to add an extra floor, one will have to check actually whether the existing structure is capable of taking the additional load or not. That only the structural engineer will be able to tell you. Usually when structural engineers design, let's say ground plus 3 stories, they make a provision for 1 additional story, most of them. But again, one would need to check whether the existing building is strong enough to take the additional load or not. And of course, then the issue of getting the requisite sanctions. If it is not allowed as per law, then you will not be able to get sanctions. You may be able to build it on your own, spending your precious money, but it can be under threat of demolition anytime.
And Satyajit, also remember that the more floors you create, the greater the density on that plot of land. Will you be able to create enough parking space? Will you be able to get enough services, as in water, electricity, and so on? That is a very critical concern, because building a unit also means making a good, giving a good quality of life to instead of 3, 5 families. So can you do it? And that is a very critical issue that you should consider. We've got Sushmita from Gurgaon who says, will landscaping help to increase our home's value in the potential market?
Absolutely, absolutely. Landscaping, see, I think let's not look at it only from monetary angle. Look at it from the value of joy of living and joy of recreation and the communion with nature. The open space provides you that. You can come out, you can recreate yourself, you can interact with the citizens around, with the house owners around, and it gives you a peace of mind, it gives you a sense of relief. And of course, definitely it adds to market value, it adds to rental value, and it's definitely desirable.
Globally, open spaces, well-landscaped areas add significant value to the property. Here, the norms of how to value your property are not as clearly defined, but anything that allows visual or lifestyle recreation is always welcome, and it definitely adds to the value of your home. And you can see by the kind of demands that people put when they look for houses.
Also, Jayashree, the visual relief that one gets. There are several studies which I have gone through of hospitals where they have tried to examine the recovery rate of patients in buildings where there is no greenery around and with buildings which have greenery around. And buildings which have greenery around, the recovery rate has found to be much, much faster. For the very simple reason that nature offers us tremendous variety. Nature does not create repetitive things. It offers tremendous variety, and all of that variety is in great harmony. And that brings a lot of peace and satisfaction and tranquility to one's mind. Otherwise, why do you think when you are stressed or when you are fed up with life, you would like to go to the hills? What is there in the hills except scenery to see, from which you recover? And so, therefore, greenery is definitely a must. And besides that, greenery also helps you to cut down the noise, cut down air pollution, and also it helps to cut down the heat and gain into a building. Besides offering visual relief and besides offering stress-free living and healthy living.
Okay, Divya from Mumbai has not landscape, but she says, Are renovations the key to better home valuations?
Renovated?
Are renovations a key to better home valuations? If you renovate your home before you sell, will you get a better value?
Definitely. Because see, the thing is, let us say I have a house and I want to sell it, but I do plaster of Paris on it and then I sell it. Then the cost of plaster of Paris, actually I'll add the cost and I'll be able to get that cost. Because the problem here is that whenever a house owner is, whenever a person is trying to buy a house, he's looking for a flat these days, where the time is at a premium with the house owner. They're looking at a flat which is ready to move in, and where everything is there. They don't have to. They simply have to bring in the furniture and start living. Because nobody has the time these days to go for renovations, and which are a costly proposition, and at the same time, which consume a lot of time. So definitely, if you are renovating a house, definitely you'll be able to recover the value of that when you sell.
What are the 5 elements of renovation that you should keep in mind for best value?
Well, the first and most important, I think, is the floor element. The flooring can be redone. That's what most house owners do. Then they do the plaster of Paris, and they use good paint, and then they use good fixtures in the toilets and the kitchen. And the kitchen also they try to have a granite counter and things like that. Of course, modular kitchen can be added, and you can have open spaces. You can have nice balconies and furniture and fixings. Furnishings can be used. And if you are selling it with the furniture, then good quality furniture and stylish, or I would say elegant furniture would also definitely add value.
How much should one spend on renovation before you sell? If you are expecting X amount, what percentage of that should you spend on renovation?
Well, I have myself done some renovations in Delhi, and I've seen in Vasant Kunj and other areas where a typical house owner doesn't want to spend any money in repainting the exterior of his house, but would spend anything between 40 to 60 lakhs into the interiors. So that's the kind of scale that house owners are going for. Again, it's a matter of budget.
How much would that house cost?
That house would cost about 2.5 crores.
If you are selling,
it's a 2-bedroom flat with 2 toilets and 1 balcony, and it would fetch about 2.5 crores, second floor, third floor in Basant Kunj.
And without that renovation, what would it have fetched?
You can straight away minus the cost of the renovations.
Now we've got Vinay from Meerut who says that how safe is it to buy a property in Uttam Nagar, Delhi West, where a lot of builder floors have become available? I came to know that most of them are constructed without sanctioning their plans from the concerned authority. Even nationalized banks are financing them. Please advise. Vinay, Uttam Nagar is a classic case where transport connectivity made that property very, very popular. It was actually not a very in-demand locality till the Delhi Metro's West Delhi line cut through that, and there are 2 stations that service Uttam Nagar. As a result, because of the enhanced demand and because it is so convenient to live there, a lot of landlords started breaking down their properties and redeveloping it. We have raised this issue at various fora to the government, saying that had Uttam Nagar been replanned when the metro was being replanned, there could have been a lot less heartburn for people like you who would have been able to buy well-designed property. Right now, it is very ad hoc, and since that market is not very well structured, it is many landlords have not gone for legal tenancies, legal sanctions. So one of the things that we would actually suggest to you is do use a legal advisor. If you shortlist a property, ask for all the documents, get it certified by the legal advisor before you buy, because you don't want to get into problems later. Baljit?
Just I'd like to point out one thing that you mentioned earlier about, in Delhi, the huge problem that we have is that land mass is limited. We created Noida, we created Ghaziabad, we created Faizabad, and all the as Sonipat as satellite cities, and we hope that the problem will be solved. The problem is not solved. Delhi has grown beyond Delhi. When I say Delhi, I'm talking about NCR. I mean, I see people traveling from all the way from Bhiwadi to Delhi every day, Panipat every day, coming from Alwar every day. That's the kind of scenario. We keep on expanding, but the geographical area of Delhi is limited. So here in Delhi, like has been happening in the West, Europe and America for several decades now, we have to introduce the concept of what is known as urban renewal. That the housing stock, whatever is there, we have to renew that constantly. A very good example of that, what is happening in Delhi, is now East Kidwai Nagar, where the government flats, which were ground plus 2 stories high and very very sparsely placed with a lot of open spaces. They were sitting on huge, very expensive piece of land. So part of that has been demolished by NBCC, and they're making now a they're making a mixed-use development where they will provide for the house owners who houses are demolished, but in multi-story apartments. And the other space which will be generated, which will be left around, will be used for commercial purposes. Now, this is a classic example where you have provided for the original house owners, provided them better facilities. At the same time, you have used the land intelligently and been able to relieve the stress on the landmass. Similar developments need to be taken up in places like Sarojini Nagar, Lodi Colony, or such government colonies where the development is low-rise. Sarojini Nagar is mostly ground plus 1 stories, and with every 8 flats have got a lawn of their own. This is luxury. And then the market which is close by, land prices are very high, and there's so much of congestion there of traffic as well as for parking, and a lot of other issues which are there of even of security, that one needs to redevelop these areas to solve the problem. Adding cities and allowing Delhi to grow concentrically is a never-ending process.
Limited point to you Vinay, go if you're planning to buy in Uttam Nagar, do get a legal check before you put your money down, because there, like you yourself have said, a lot of landlords are building without getting all the sanctions from the authorities. We've got Lovely from Delhi who says, can you suggest how we can improve home values in the long run?
Like, I mean, the home values definitely you can improve in the long run. First of all, deciding the location in which you want to buy. If you're looking purely for investment purposes, naturally, you will buy a house in locality which will appreciate much faster than the other localities. Then once that is done, then one has to decide as to what kind of an orientation of the house that you're looking for. If you're very conscious about east-west orientation or north-south orientations, that matters to some people. There are many who are bowled over by Vastu and they want to buy houses which are Vastu compliant, so that's their preference. Others may not be. But the essential thing that everyone should take care of, that the house should get, every house should get enough amount of light and ventilation and sunlight for healthy living. This is one way you can add value. You can add value by creating external spaces, by creating landscape spaces, by creating terraced gardens. You can also add value by using materials which have a long life and which require very little maintenance, and they are hardy and they are not that costly. Or the materials don't have to be costly to be able to be hardy enough. And you can add value also by choosing the right kind of fixtures and furnishings, and also the other elements of how one space is organized with relation to the other, and how much is the wastage of a space. Like I said earlier also, that one should try to look for unit plans which don't compromise on the efficiency of the space within. There are a lot of builders who will provide you houses where there is a lot of space is wasted in the movement between the entrance hall and the different rooms. So that is one critical area. One can also look at clubbing spaces, let's say the kitchen and the dining. These days in most multi-story flats, you will find that the kitchen is no longer an isolated entity. It is as much a part of dining with no intervening wall. So this is the way whereby we can economize on space, and one can use every square inch of space in an intelligent manner. So space planning becomes very important, especially if the house is a 1 BHK apartment or a 2 BHK apartment, where every square inch is very precious.
We've got Junjun Sharma who's come to us with 2 queries, and we are almost at the end of our session, so these are the last 2 queries that we will pick up. We do have more queries, and do keep posting them. We'll be happy to get Baljit to give his views on the rest of the queries, and we'll post it back on our forum. Junjun Sharma says, can you share a few tips on how to select the kind of home I need? I have a family of 6, 2 are senior citizens and 2 are kids. Junjun, very important point here. Since your family consists of 3 sets of people, the parents, your generation and the children, you need at least 3 bedrooms if you want convenient living. Today's world, you at least need 3 bathrooms along with that, preferable 3 bathrooms. In some cases, you have to share bathrooms, depending on how much you can afford. Many people also feel the need for a guest room. If you can afford that, then a 4th bedroom becomes very important. Since there are so many types of people living in the house, you may need your storage spaces, and a separate storage space is welcome if you can afford it. Another thing that you could look at is how different, you have areas that you can different people can sit and use. For instance, balconies are important when you have senior citizens. Long open spaces where children can run around is important, and so on. Let me give it to Baljit for his views.
I think Gunjan.
Junjun.
Huh?
Junjun.
Junjun, I'm not sure whether you want to remain in Delhi or you want to, or you're open to leaving Delhi and staying anywhere else. What is happening in Delhi? Delhi is becoming so overstressed, and a lot of people actually, a lot of professionals I see who are moving out of Delhi into smaller towns where the real business is happening, where the real new companies are coming up. So that is one really good option. There's nothing like having your own small piece of land, building maybe 1 or 2 floors on that, and extending it further as the need arises. This is what I would really say. If you can afford that, nothing like it. Otherwise, then what she said, you have to have at least 3 bedrooms. There are builders now who are putting in 4 bedrooms and more. Even that can be a good option. It all depends on your budget and the area that you want to live in.
And we've got one more question from Junjun. I want to raise. What are your thoughts about expandable homes? Is it wise to invest in? I think, Baljit, that was the
I think absolutely. This is Jesse and I have been talking about this concept for the last 20 years. That why is this not an option provided by the builders? The builders don't provide this option for you to extend the house on your own because of various factors like economics and design factors and other issues and their returns, etc., etc. But the ideal thing should be that the builders should actually just give you a shell. They should give you columns and beams and slab, even without any wall. And the house owner should be able to build the walls himself to his or her taste and all the interiors to his or her taste. Also, the design should be made in such a manner that they can be extended further. There is a very old concept of what is known as incremental housing. It's very interesting concept which has been implemented in low-cost housing in Indore in a project called Aranya. That was the first one which won an Aga Khan Award also. That for every house owner a small plot was provided and the services were laid out and the roads were laid out and that's all. And the house owner was at will to build as much of area as he wanted depending on his or her budget. So that was truly incremental housing. That kind of an experiment needs to be done at the scale of Delhi in the multi-stored houses, which is not being done in India at all so far. And that is will give you a lot of satisfaction to house owners to show their intervention, to intervene, and to be able to express their own aspirations and their preferences by choosing elements, by choosing materials, by choosing colors and textures which they are comfortable with, rather than what is being dictated to them by the architect or by the builder.
This is the point where we will have to do a hard stop, listeners. Thank you so much for joining us in the webinar. It's been an absolute delight to have so many different types of queries, and we do keep the queries coming, and we'd be happy to get Baljit to answer them for you.
Thank you very much.
Over to you, Neha.
Yeah, thank you, Jayashree, and thank you, Mr. Khurana. I'm really thankful to our guest speakers for conducting this webinar. It was indeed a great session. I would also like to thank all our participants for their support in making this webinar a success. The recording of the webinar will be available on Magic Bricks by tomorrow. I thank you all. This is Neha Nagpal, the moderator of the session, signing off.
Thank you. Bye-bye and have a great day.